of those times in the year when things are a little bit too busy, but it's exciting to be with the students here tonight as well. It's afternoon here in London, but yeah, I think it's amazing to be able to kind of be part of this conversation. And thank you for having me, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me. And I was particularly interested in talking to you because actually you've got the Westminster qualification, the MA that the students are studying at the moment. And that was probably, what was that, about a decade ago that you received that qualification?
So I was on the course in the year 2011 to 2012. So my course, the master's course, is a 1-year course here in London. So I was enrolled in September 2011 and graduated at toward the end of September 2012. So almost 9 years. I don't know where time went.
I know, time flies. And tell us about your MA qualification, your experience in the course, and what you actually niched and carved your way into with your speciality in sustainability.
Of course. So I think my background before the MA was in fashion design. So I wanted to get into a fashion business management master's just because when you're studying design, you get the product side of the knowledge and you understand the supply chain from a creative perspective, but you don't see the industry as a commercial or, in a commercial scale. So I think the course itself was really helpful in helping get a clear picture of how the business of fashion is run and how what you design or think creatively can actually be implemented in the real world and how that can be a commercially viable product. So there is one, for a creative, anything you design is like it's almost like it's like a work of art and something that you create and you're personally really connected to. And to actually change that way of looking at it to a commercial item, a commodity that needs to be sold in the marketplace and to be able to generate revenue and profits. Those are sides that, the fashion business management course touched on. In addition to other things like people, and leadership skills, and looking at, aspects within the supply chain that you wouldn't go into as a creative or as a designer, let's say. So it was really, I think the course itself took place in the right time. I was just out of university with the design course and then into the business management. So suddenly like switching from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain. And in a total new country, it was, that is something, that was really interesting as well, because UK is one of the fashion capitals and you see a really broad mix of brands in here. You have Oxford Street, where you have, the Zara's, the H&M's, and the Top Shops, which are the high street brand. And then you go down to Knightsbridge and Sloane Street, where you see the Gucci, Prada, and, Burberry, and all of those guys who are a different end of the spectrum. But you see all of those contrasts happening in the same city, like minutes away, not minutes, but, within travel kind of distance. So I think the course, in addition to being placed in the city, was really interesting and exciting for someone coming from abroad to kind of gain the knowledge and experience, I suppose.
And how did your MA experience change you as a person?
I think the MA experience itself, I think, again, I make a comparison because when you're in the BA, you are grasping education in a very education format, in the sense that you are taught the process of creating a garment and the process that is deliverable in terms of a lecture and your demonstration and so forth. Whereas in the masters, it's a lot more self-driven, in the sense the term you use is spoon feeding. There is very little spoon feeding in the master's level, and that was the case in the course, where you were given the theories and you were given the concepts that you're working with, but you could mold it to an area that you want to specialize in. So let's say if you were given an assignment that said that we had to apply marketing strategy for a brand, and maybe revamp the brand image, we could choose what brand we wanted to work on. So if you were interested in going down the luxury route, then you could actually choose to do that assignment for a luxury brand. Whereas if you saw your career developing more in the in the high street, or the bridge market, then you could actually change that, choose a brand that is actually going to be a high street brand instead. So I think that is the beauty within the master's course, that it's like a framework that you can make happen for what you would want to achieve in your career going forward.
Yeah, and did you specialise your final report in sustainability? And is that what led you to start your own brand?
So I was interested in sustainability since I would say quite a young age, or quite early on in my education journey. So when I was doing my design collection at NIFT, I was actually already working with sustainable materials. So I used jute and various forms of jute as a fully biodegradable material, which is not very commonly used in fashion, and that was my me tapping into the sustainability space, where it was not so cool to do sustainability back then. I'm talking about 2010, early 2010. So I think it was my interest in that space has been since before my master's. And when I got into the master's, I wanted to kind of amplify that and really gain more knowledge and understand how other brands are implementing these strategies. And I think the assignments were beautifully designed for me to do those research, and kind of directed me to gain the right kind of understanding as to how sustainability was applied in practice, in comparison to the way I had, implemented it just through product and designing product and through choice of material.
Yeah, and you certainly started to really own that area, because we're going to get into it in a minute. We've got awards and amazing press. You've been featured in Vogue, Harper's, and Elle magazine, and we're going to have a look at your work as well while you're talking. But so congratulations, and congratulations for pioneering sustainability 10 years ago. Thank you so much. And so if you want to start to show your work, and then we can talk through it, because I wanted this conversation to be about your journey, and start with your MA, and then talk about the MA and kind of how you became an entrepreneur, and kind of do a chronological story, really.
Of course, I think it might be worth starting at the start. So while I was studying my master's here in the UK, in London, I think I had the opportunity through the university to really be part of talks and networking processes where we got to meet people from the industry who were working in the sustainability space. But equally, where I was quite lucky was I had the opportunity to work as a buyer while I was still studying. So there were two Stanford graduates from India who started their own e-commerce company back in 2011. And the time when I was in the UK, in London, they actually approached me to work as a buyer for them. And what I was doing was actually going to trade shows and Fashion Week and sourcing brands for them. So even though I was a student on the course, what was helpful is to be able to see brands that are out there doing what they're doing, presenting their collection to buyer, and how that interaction happens. So that was a big eye opener, because on the course you see a lot of examples in terms of the real world case studies, and you meet people who are guest speakers and so forth. But doing those trips as a buyer and meeting brands and seeing that interaction firsthand was kind of, an eye opener in the way the business side of world actually happens, in addition to studying that in theory at uni. So I think the framework of the business at the time was in my head, but it wasn't being applied. So I always knew I wanted to start El Saha. And I had decided on the name even before my final year on my design course. But I think while I was studying at the university, the more and more I researched about the sustainability space in the luxury sector, I saw there was a real gap in the market. There was, I think, only one brand, Stella McCartney, who was doing sustainable luxury. But when you said sustainability, I think we would visualize beige, gray material, and very hippie-ish kind of style. You wouldn't think luxury could be sustainable at all. So I felt that sustainability shouldn't be like an option. It should be something that's embedded in the business model while creating beautiful clothes. So I think the more I looked into the space, I could see the gaps where things could be improved, and not at the compromise of design. I think the design is very vital. You shouldn't buy a product because it's sustainable. You should buy it because you love it, and the sustainability aspect should be an element that is embedded within it without any compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, do you want to start showing us your story that we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. So I'll start with something new and exciting that happened, which is that earlier this year, we became one of the youngest signatories of the UN Fashion Charter for Global Climate Action. So essentially, the Fashion Industry Charter is a collective of brands that have come together to really make a difference in the way they operate, and there are some really big brands that are doing it. But we were really grateful to be able to be one of the signatories, which is, I think, we're one of the youngest British brands that are part of that. So I will open what we call our brand bio, which is just an introduction to the brand and what we are about. But I think I would also encourage the students, if they were interested, to feel free to look at our website. And I think, you can see a lot of the information there. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen in a moment. And I'd be happy to answer questions from students as and when they come. So are you able to see my screen? Wait, I think you shouldn't now. You should. Do you see this?
We see you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so this is what an image we kind of used to announce that we became the UN Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action. If you search on Google, you'll be able to see the full list of signatories. I think globally there is only about 100 brands that are part of this movement, where there are different working groups where you can exchange ideas and knowledge with big guys like Kerings and Adidas and so forth in using better materials, in having better and more transparent supply chain and things like that. So because we touched on sustainability already, I'm starting on this because, we've been sustainable since our day one in 2014, but by adding, these layers of being part of these bigger movements, I think we are always looking to improve and push further what we've been doing, because there's always room for improvement. And the point in time we are at now, I think we need to act really quickly. So together stronger is the saying as it goes, because one brand can't make all the difference in the world. It's all brands coming together and making that difference, what we totally believe in. And something like the UN Fashion Industry Charter is really helping us be part of that bigger movement. So going into the brand bio, as I mentioned. So this is the name of the brand, El Saha. Different people pronounce it differently, but El is pronounced as the letter L. In French, it means her. So I think it's a nice kind of play with word. And Saha, as you know, is my surname. And we call ourselves a timeless, a true luxury brand. So true luxury because it's luxury, but it's luxury with a sustainable soul. And we blend the pillars of sustainability quite nicely with the pillars of luxury without compromising either. So what you get is a new genre of luxury, which is not purely about the exclusivity of the material and the beauty and quality of the product, but actually something that is pro-planet in its approach. So we say we create timeless true luxury with love. Of course, we like to add love to everything we do. And here is a little bio about our brand. And, again, it can be seen on the website. It just says about who we are, and we've been, some of the features that we've been part of, been grateful to be part of. And then besides being a London-based brand, we're also a positive fashion brand acknowledged by the British Fashion Council. So we are one of the positive fashion designer member, and they highlight our ethos in everything we do through the British Fashion Council platform, London Fashion Week being part of it. We have also been nominated for the Changemakers Prize, which was looking at creativity, craftsmanship, community, and other aspects within the fashion business. We were nominees for the British Fashion Awards last year. We hope to be winning, one of the winners, hopefully this year, but we don't know yet. And just some images from our previous showcases. So the beginning of the talk, you saw a clip of the video, which was our autumn-winter fashion film. So this is basically an image from the autumn-winter collection, which was done in a fashion film format because we were in, restrictions. February this year, we weren't allowed to do physical events, so we shot a fashion film, and it's available to be seen on YouTube. But we have been creative during the lockdown period since March 2020 until April this year, where one of the things we did was the fashion film, but also we did a live design exhibition, which was part of the London Design Festival, as well as London Fashion Week, September last year. So part of the exhibition was showcasing some of the work in process, but it was a 9-day exhibition where I created an item from start to finish over a 9-day period. So you could see me on day 1 with just the material and the mannequin, and then on day 9 you see the finished item. So I think, again, a small film documenting that process can be seen on our YouTube channel if you were interested. This was the last show that happened in February 2020, just before we went into lockdown, autumn-winter 2020. And this one was the one before the spring-summer 2020 show that took place at Hans Crescent. And this brings me to the slide that talks about our sustainability and luxury pillars. And I could go into very much depth into all the different pillars that we speak about, but timeless design is one of the key things that I'd like to kind of touch on, because fashion is very much about now and time. Growing up, we always read this quote saying, the only thing constant in fashion is change. So it's a world that's constantly changing, and it's a beautiful thing that the world is changing, but designs shouldn't be irrelevant or obsolete with time, and that's something we truly believe in at El Saha. So we try to aim for longevity, not just from quality and detail, but also in the designs, where they're very much focused on the need of a woman's wardrobe and how a dress or a product might stay relevant for many years, not just driven by trends. So in the autumn-winter 21 film, you would have seen items that were first introduced in 2014. So our first ever collection, items from that is still relevant in our current collection. So we
ask you, what can you see on your screen? Because we're still on the Saha page, which has got the globe on it from the beginning. Are you seeing? You're obviously seeing different slides to us. So are your slides being shown to you?
Sharing paused. Bring your window to the front. That's what it says.
On your screen, you can see all the slides.
I can, I think, but it does say that it's been paused. Let me stop the share and start again. Hopefully,
yeah, just have a go. Because
sorry about that. Thank you for flagging, because
that's
otherwise,
okay. I mean, all of these things happen because we're live. Just to make us a bit more nervous.
Thank you for flagging that. Let me try once again. So the globe is the one that you last saw. Let me go back to that.
So I think you've gone about 2 or 3 slides further than
I have, yes. I think, back on the globe. Are you seeing the globe now?
Yes, we're seeing a different one.
Oh, right. So you have not seen these slides?
No. So could we just go back and have a look at them?
Of course. So
Thank
this
you
is
so
where I
much.
spoke about the timeless true luxury principle, which was which is the basic tagline for the business, or the ethos we primarily focus on, and why we call ourselves true luxury. I will not repeat it, but this is the slide where I spoke about true luxury, and this is where is a brief intro to the brand. And we are a London-based true luxury brand, and some of the pillars of our commitments are mentioned here. I will not read through it, but it's the same as the description that is seen on the website. So it can be seen on the website as well. So I think this is where I spoke about we are the BFC's designer member and a positive fashion brand. We have been committed to sustainability and luxury since 2014 and acknowledged by the BFC for that as a positive fashion brand. So this is where I spoke about the nomination for the Changemakers Prize. Sorry if it's a repeat for some students. We do apologize about this technical element. But here again, I mentioned we were nominated for the British Fashion Awards last year. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we get nominated and maybe hopefully win something this year. And this is the film image. So you saw the film at the beginning, a clip from the film. This is just a photograph from the collection that can also be seen in
you talked about as well how creative you were during the pandemic, and this is the space that you used. It was the Royal Exchange. Tell us about this photo shoot.
So this was actually a filming in addition to a photo shoot. So as I mentioned before, because of the restrictions, we weren't able to do a physical event. Yeah. So we did a fashion film instead. And the fashion film was to show the collection in a 5-minute video, or show key looks from the collection in a 5-minute video, which also had a storyline without having to host a runway. And we shot at the Royal Exchange in London, which is an iconic building based close to Bank, London, and it's a 450-year-old building. It used to be a center of trade and has seen its way through World War, floods, fires, and whatnot. So the reason we chose this building is, of course, firstly, because it's a beautiful backdrop, but we also chose this because we were, as a world, we're going through a crisis. It wasn't a war, but it was almost similar to, because there was a lot of uncertainty, businesses were suffering, people were suffering, so many people lost their loved ones. So it was a symbolic collaboration with the Royal Exchange to put forward the voice that after every dark day, there is a bright day, and there are monuments around us that testify that buildings and centers and organizations that have been through crises have come back stronger and built their way back. So that was the kind of message. That was a message we wanted to put forward through the collaboration, but also that there is a beauty in timelessness. This is a 450-year-old building. It holds its true to its character, and it's still relevant today in 2021. And that's somehow very synonymous to who we want to stand for as a brand as well. Like I mentioned, pieces in this film were actually pieces from back in 2014. In a fashion context, we think about every 6 months as a season, whereas timeless design can actually be relevant for your lifetime and beyond. So there are many angles to the synergy between the choice of location and the fashion film that we spoke about. So I'll go on to the next one. But do you have any questions in regards to this, Rebecca?
Yeah, I really like the characters in this film. I've watched this film quite a few times. What's the storyline between the two models?
Yes, of course. So the storyline is that the lady on the left is Chaya, and the lady on the right is Sanjana. So Chaya is the wife of sun god, and Sanjana is the consort of the sun god. So it's kind of like an interaction between the two characteristics. But the reason why I thought these two ladies should be a focus in the film, because there's a feminist angle to this, because I think in the Eastern culture, those who know about the sun god or worship the sun god, it's a primary focus, right? But wherever there is sun, there is shadow. So Chaya translates to shadow, but no one speaks about the wife or the consort in the mythological or the religious world. I think the male figure is the one worshipped. The female figures are the ones forgotten. So the film, in a way, also wanted to bring to life that these characters, or through these characters, but these are powerful forces. If you think about sun as a god, then shadow should be a goddess too, because they always go hand in hand. You cannot have an object existing in sunlight without creating a shadow. So it was kind of bring the power of femininity as well, but it's really complex. So you don't see that much happening in the film. But this was kind of the concept I was working with, because we need to embrace the dark side whilst knowing the light side as well. So yeah, because they don't exist without each other.
I love that story. And can you just talk me through the materials happening on these garments as well? Because the really interesting thing that I love is the braiding and the weaving that's happening and flowing off the garment.
Yeah, so this is a technique I've used in my collection since I was a student, actually. So the material on both dresses are silk. The one in the jumper is cotton, but this one's Dupion silk, and the other one is silk satin. So when we use silk, we've always gone for certified silk that are sustainable, but also the fact that if you see this garment up close, this has got really finely pleated panels, which is hand pleated in the manufacturing process, which adds more value to the sustainable silk material. Because I think when you do something with hand, it's hard to replicate with a machine. And I think what I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation about high street world existing synonymous or in the same place as luxury world, it often so happens that the high street is knocking off ideas and designs from the luxury space, and it's very easy to replicate. So when we design, we try to incorporate as much as possible handwork, because it cannot be replicated in the mass production. So that's one way of us protecting our creative aspects, but also keeping that platform alive where human craftsmanship is not replaced or forgotten. Because as a brand, we take the onus upon us to keep those aspects alive, because the next generation may not know what craftsmanship done with hand is like if we don't hold on to that, because we live in a very fast-paced, mechanized world.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a guest speaker last week talking about the opportunities in Sri Lankan craft. And he was kind of creating corporate spaces. And so what you just said, I really think that students can really think about what is available to them here in Sri Lanka that shouldn't be forgotten, that would be seen as a luxury item, like in Europe, Australia, and America, that might be overlooked here in Sri Lanka.
Absolutely. The beauty in this world is there is craftsmanship in different form in every part of the world. Some are forgotten, some are almost extinct, but some still exist. So, and I think I don't know, maybe when you say handmade in Italy, it's perceived different to when you say handmade in India or Sri Lanka. But I think coming from those regions, it's our responsibility to change that perception, because otherwise, if it's not looked at as valuable, then youngsters will automatically drift away from those crafts activities and go into studying a different area. Whereas I think some of the crafts processor or artisans who exist today have actually been given those skill set handed down within generations within the families. Some of the in India we call them karigar, are actually karigar in a families for 4 or 5 generations, and that's how they know so well how to do what they do. It's not just like that, it's a lifetime of devotion that goes beyond being an expert artisan or karigar.
So important in luxury fashion.
Pardon, I didn't quite catch that.
And it's just so important to have these elements in luxury fashion as well. These craft elements that kind of give this new identity to something that you can see is kind of like from a mixed culture. And I just really love the way that your Instagram has so much architecture in it that complements the shapes and colours of your work.
Thank you. Thank you. We try to keep it, we try to, I would say, keep it more about, more about our ethos and what we believe in rather than just product, although you see a lot of the product on there, but I think the bigger message should be visible as well. It's nice to hear that you notice that.
And also, what kind of person, who is your client or customer? Who would wear this? Is this person in India, or are they in London, or all over the place? Like, who are you addressing at the moment?
So being a London-based brand and being a British brand, although I'm originally from India, a lot of our customers are based here in the UK, mostly in London, but London being a very diverse city, we do have, different different cultures embedded in some of our clients. So let's say, I wouldn't mention names, but let's say one of the El Saha ladies or client is born and brought up in London, but she has Turkish and Iranian parents, and then she's got a bit of UK, a bit of some other countries in the way she looks at things. And she works for a multinational company here in London, and she travels to the States, she travels to, a lot of the Western countries, but she still likes to stand out from the crowd by carrying bits of her identity in the way she dresses. So I think we have a lot of clients who are of mixed heritage, but we also have, British clients who are, some of them are maybe a lot older than you would imagine. We do have clients who are in their mid 50s, early 60s. Equally, we have ladies who are, early 30s and interested in our products. So I like to think it's a very global and diverse clientele that we're catering to, but we have noticed over the years that some parts of our collection are very appealing to the Middle East, and I see this. I see why, because of the aesthetics, and some of our pieces are modest. It's quite covered and still, I would say, um, unique. So I think that's my observation. It may be temporary, it may be a permanent thing, but we'll see.
And what is the client and client relationship with you? If I was your client, would I come into your studio and meet you and try and work? What would be the process?
So it depends on the client. We work, I do meet clients face to face on occasions, but we have associates and personal shoppers who deal with clients on a day to day basis. It's just because of the way my role is. Usually my priority is getting the product right and the collection right, and I love to meet clients and spend time with them, but it's not always possible given my calendar.
Yeah. So what is your calendar like? So what is a typical day like for you from when you wake up to when you go to sleep? What are you kind of working on your laptop? Or are you physically working on with fabrics and working on the mannequin or sourcing fabrics? How much time do you get to be creative, and how much time do you spend on the business?
I think it depends on which time of the year. So leading up to, let's say, Fashion Week, now my work from the creative side is done because the designs for the collection and the designs and the range plan and everything has been finalized and it's in the process of making. At this point, I will define for you today is more about engaging with press and making sure that we're having the show and speaking to them and seeing, what they'd like to know, if they'd like to do an interview with me and things like that. So it's very much like I feel like a PR person working alongside our PR team,
Yeah.
because I need to be out there engaging. I can't be hidden away because my work as a creative director is done, because I need to keep speaking about the brand. So leading up to the show, the PR aspect becomes really vital. But let's say 2 months before the show, I would spend a lot of time, sometimes listening to music, sometimes reading through books, and sometimes researching materials, ideating the collection. because you never know where the inspiration comes. So you become like a sponge and try to be really relaxed so the idea comes to you. So because you
Yeah.
can't sit and do a design, because it's not like maths, the inspiration needs to hit you. So you need to be in a very relaxed state of mind for it to hit you. Um, but that is a very small time within the year where I give myself the luxury to actually, just sit and ideate and brainstorm. Because once you've got the idea, you've got to get it going. You've got to bring the materials together and, talk to the suppliers to get the critical path running, where the process of, developing the samples and the samples for the show, etc., and then thinking about production timelines, etc. So I think a typical day is very different every day. And as I said, it depends. It is influenced by the fashion calendar quite a bit.
Oh, how lovely to have every day different. And just so we know, I mean, we're in a lockdown at the moment, but London is in full swing and you're going to have a proper live fashion show this time.
Yes, we will be having a fashion show, but we have taken measures to protect, of course, the crew, our guests, as well as anyone else in the staff. So people need to be double vaxxed. They have to have proof of double vaccination, as well as if they don't have double vaccination, they need to have a proof of a negative result to be able to enter the show or be part of the guest. So although it's in full swing, anything can happen. So we are going to be safe as much as possible.
Absolutely. So you've also, you talk about we quite a lot, you and your team. Can you tell us about how your team works and who's in it and the different roles there are?
Absolutely. I think we are a young company, therefore a small team, but we have someone who is our press officer. We have someone who handles wholesale, and then we have a host of associates and personal shoppers who is meeting clients face to face. So the core team is just 5 of us, but like I said, the associates and the personal shoppers are a bigger team, a pool of people. Whereas if you look at our supply chain, we have much bigger suppliers and organizations that are involved, starting from the factory that is manufacturing our garment to someone who's, managing the quality control and logistics and so forth. So the core team is just a group of 5 of us. And I've intentionally kept the team small because we are able to keep perspective of what's going on with a smaller team. But I know as the business grows, I might need to expand the team as well. So it will be part of the process, I believe.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the audience? You can type or you can show your face and you can talk to us. Please don't be shy. Is there anything I haven't covered? And I looked on your website and you said that you're making quite a lot of your work in the UK.
Most of the handmade things that are not embroidery, like the hand weaving and braiding, those are done in the studio. Our entire upcycle jewelry collection was made at the studio. So we try to do as much as possible in London, but also CMT, which is cut, make, and trim, also is done. Some bits of it is done in the UK, some bits of it is done in Italy. But I love it when we can do things in the studio. I think if we had the opportunity, would love to have a proper, manufacturing run set up in-house, because that gives you a real picture of, let's say, energy consumption, materials, and how we are managing material, how much waste we can control, and so forth. So sustainability is embedded in every simple step in a product. So if you can see it in front of your eyes, that's the best way of managing it. So I think, with the UK government really encouraging people to make in the UK, I think we want to really amplify how we incorporate that in the business as well.
And what would you like to be doing ideally, or where would you like to see yourself in 5 years' time?
It's a very interesting question. I think I'm committed to El Saha, but besides El Saha, I also run a company called True Luxury Week, which is bringing together brands similar to us and businesses similar to us, not just from fashion, but also from the food world, technology, lifestyle, hospitality, and things like that. So I want to commit myself to living in a more sustainable and more pro-planet world, and everything that comes with it, be it in this the academic space, be it in through Elsa the business, through Luxury Week the business, but also through joining forces with other who's who in the world who can maybe initiate a positive difference through how we see a product and then how we buy a product, because that's the only way to make change. We can make change internally and no one ever knows about it, and that may not make a big difference, but I think collectively, if the industry comes together. I see Caroline has raised her hand. Caroline, do you want to ask something?
Hi, Lebonne. It's lovely to see you after all this time.
To see you too, although briefly, Caroline.
It's lovely. I just wanted to see how much you could tell the others from what you learned from being a graduate of Westminster, and how you managed to put what you learned into practice, because it's just great to see how your business has developed over the years and see your amazing collections.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. Really nice question. I must say, for those who don't know, Caroline used to be one of my professors at university 9 years ago. So I think the first thing does not need mention, but I just spell it out, is that connect with the people that you meet at university, including your professors, and you never know where that might lead to, because Caroline, Virginia, they were like, after I graduated, I had all my friends go back to their own countries, and I was here in the UK. And the university kind of was my support system in the early years. And I think some of my earliest press was thanks to Virginia, who is our course leader, was my course leader, is still the course leader, connecting me to a journalist who wanted to write about recent graduates. That got me almost like a full coverage, full page, included in a full page article in a national newspaper, The Independent. So I think this is something that does not need mention. It just shows that when you connect with people and stay in touch with people, it always is powerful to be connected, because alone there is only so much we can do in this world. So that is one thing. But from the course, of course, I think, like I said, if you know what you want to do, I think, which I was quite clear as to what I want to do career-wise when I was on the course. So really mold your focus to that direction, because the assignments will almost help you build like a portfolio of work that is focused in that direction that you want to go in, and it will help you stand out from all the other graduates that year. So I think spending a little bit of time to brainstorm and see what that might be for you as a student would be really helpful.
What you've done is something very special, and it's lovely to see.
Oh, thank you, Caroline.
Well done. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, you're very, very busy, and we're going to let you get back to your fashion week. Unless there's any more questions from the audience, I think we've covered a really nice story here. It's so inspiring to hear. And thank you so much for joining us. And keep in touch.
It's an absolute pleasure, Rebecca. And I think this talk has helped me calm down a little bit. I felt like I was all over the place before I got on the call. But
yeah, it was amazing. Thank you. And good luck. And we'll be following you on Facebook and cheering you on, and seeing what happens. So thank you so much for your time, and good luck.
Thanks a ton for having me. And thank you for all the students who joined in. I look forward to staying connected, Rebecca.
Thank you. Yes, let's stay connected. Thank you.